Lies are the one thing that every person on this planet is guilty of, and it's one of the most frustrating things to deal with. But lying is unavoidable at times, and women love to use small, subtle white lies as a way of getting their way. In most cases, they make sure that these lies are meticulous, and at the end of the day, they always win. But men have become increasingly weak, often putting women in positions where they have virtually no other option than lying. At the end of the day, these men are lied to and they tend to hate women and the system. But what if you could spot these lies miles ahead of time? Well, many women have the same old tricks up their sleeves, often making predicting lies easier. Today, we look at 8 of the most common phrases women use if they want to lie. But first, we need to understand why women lie. Why do women lie? One of the best ways to spot lies is to delve deeper into what the core motivation is. When it comes to women, the answer is rather simple: self-preservation. Like many liars in the world, a lie often has 2 different goals. The first is to purposely mislead or misdirect someone, but others are simply to preserve oneself. Women choose the latter more often than not, but let's explore this. You see, most of the lies in a relationship happen during the early stages and then the latter stages as the relationship is coming to an end. Lying during the initial stages happens from both parties, as even men love to push their egos by selling cheap lies to women as a way of hoping they become even more attracted to them. During the initial stages of a relationship, women also tend to lie quite a bit, especially when she's unsure about whether she likes him or not. Women will not want to commit, but she doesn't want to lose you either, and this is a significant ploy that aims to keep a guy on some sort of leash in case she might choose to date him. The problem with this is that men are not stupid, and many men often realize this. However, they're not completely sure whether or not she's actually lying, and this complicates things quite a bit. Men might act irrationally by accusing a woman of lying simply because of a few changes in how she carries herself. However, there's absolutely no evidence. Since the guy doesn't have any evidence, women can make him out as being obsessive or having something wrong with him. Men usually respond with more weak behavior, and at the end of the day, she's so disgusted with you and how you carry yourself that she doesn't like you anymore. But here's a quick tip before we look at the 8 lies that women love to tell. If a woman is lying to you, the best course of action you can take is to back off. Ideally, you want to sit back a little bit and let it play out, but also try to create some emotional distance between yourself and the other person. Stoicism is also very helpful in these situations, as the goal is to become powerful enough within yourself to walk away. The main goal is to protect yourself as much as possible, while not showing her the internal weakness you're struggling with. Once you discover she's been lying, it's better to cut off all communications and walk away. This is something very few men can do, but it's an absolute necessity if you want to have a functioning and flourishing relationship. With that said, and firmly implanted in your mind, let's look at 8 common ways women will deceive men and how you need to react when it happens. Number 1. I love our conversations. One of the first lies you might hear from women is not that complicated to understand. You see, women hate being alone, and as long as they have someone to talk to in their lives, they're constantly being fulfilled and they never feel lonely. One of the first things you might hear when it comes to women is that she tells you she loves the conversations the two of you are having. On a surface level, that doesn't mean anything, and it might even seem like a genuine compliment. However, it all boils down to the content of your conversations. You see, if the conversations are not going anywhere, and it's mostly focused on common everyday things, you're simply becoming a distraction. However, if this happens when the conversations turn spicy, it's actually a genuine compliment. The reason women do this is to keep you hooked and to give you a slither of hope to keep on talking to her. In reality, she doesn't have any real plan to escalate the current situation you're dealing with, and this is where things become a little trickier. Now, as a man, you can continue being her good old friend, or you can make yourself a little scarcer when it comes to communication. The main goal is to see how she'll react when you do pull away. If she did genuinely like you, it will often cause her to notice. However, if she doesn't even blink, she's lying to you. The best course of action is to cut your losses and simply move on. Number 2. Playing to your vanity. You are so... Another common lie you find is when women tend to blow up their egos. In fact, women blow up your ego for a variety of different reasons. One of the main reasons is when they actually like you and she wants you to feel confident about yourself and where things are going. But women are rather reluctant to compliment men, especially during the initial phases of any relationship. One of the reasons for this is that the last thing she wants is for you to believe that you have the power of the relationship in your hands. But occasionally, women might try to play to your ego to get something. In fact, she might want to check out a new place, or she might want you to buy her something. The best way to do this is to establish a positive stimulus and to give you a little bit of hope that things are progressing in a good direction. One of the best ways she can do this is by playing directly to your ego and telling you some of the things that she knows you like to hear. The goal is to have you offer her something in return. But keep in mind, this is not as common with normal women, and it's often something you see in complete narcissists and those who are looking to use you. The mistake many men make is they realize how fake these compliments are, and they simply continue trying to impress her with the hope that these compliments will continue. Once again, this is a situation where you should probably just let it play out. In fact, you should not be wasting your resources on a woman unless you're sure about the direction of the relationship. Number 3. You are a great lover. Another prominent lie women love telling is that a guy is a great lover. For many of you watching, you might just be that one stallion or the best she's ever had. However, most of us are simply just another one who got lucky. You see, women don't mind using their bodies for personal gain. In fact, it's one of their best assets and something that's there for them to use. A woman might sleep with you knowing you are offering her something worthwhile, and this is then used to keep you offering this over and over again. In fact, whenever you're receiving compliments from anyone, it's vital to stop and ask yourself whether this comment was deserved or if it was mere flattery. In most cases, you're bound to find just how many times you've been flattered. The idea of using this flattery, especially when it comes to being in the bed, is to assure you that as long as you keep being a good and obedient guy, you'll be treated each evening. Well, this works until she meets someone else, and someone who unlocks her feminine inner being. She'll give herself to this kind of guy for free. Ideally, you want to refrain from giving too much of yourself until you have a grasp on where things are going. Number 4. She puts you on a pedestal. You are my hero. Nothing makes a man feel more capable and competent than when his woman tells him how great he is and the fact that he might be her hero. This directly plays into the Prince Charming and Lost Princess narrative that both men and women simply love to fantasize about. Women also know that men love saving women, and they all have this natural complex that a woman needs to be saved from society. So this means that it becomes a weakness, and she can effectively pry on this as much as she likes. You see, many women are willing to put their partners on pedestals, but this is done sincerely. You'll notice whether or not it's insincere by what she's complimenting you on. As a man, you also need to have a little bit of common sense to understand whether something deserves a compliment or not. Ideally, you want to sit back and figure out if this compliment is deserved and what you're doing for her when you do get the compliment. While this is not extremely common anymore, it's something you need to look out for, and it could be frustrating. By following the ancient Stoics, you'll become so comfortable with clear thinking and meditation that these things become much easier to spot. Number 5. She slanders her exes. Whilst this might not be a specific phrase, there's one thing you need to be careful about. You see, women love slandering the people they don't like, and only recently, a new generation of women who try to avoid this have been growing up. However, a woman might meet you for a first date, and on this date, she might be very willing to completely slander her exes. The idea of doing this is not to tell you how bad they are, but to get some of the emotional frustration off their shoulders, and now you've become the person listening to this. Unfortunately, a woman who continues to talk about her exes still has some bad blood, and you can be quite sure that she's still garnering some feelings towards them. These feelings can often be flipped into something positive, and before you know it, you open up social media one day to see they have reconciled. Now, many men will react rather frustrated toward this, and they can even become angry, but this doesn't solve anything, and it could even make the situation that much worse. The ideal thing you should do when this happens is to simply walk away and not continue to bother her. In fact, the one thing she wants when this happens is for you to disappear, but she often knows that this is not possible and she might need to ward off your offensive. However, when you walk away, you might still be losing, but you're walking away with your dignity, and she'll naturally come back in the end when things don't work out. Ideally, you want to reject her here and make it clear that you are displeased with her decisions. Number 6. You don't care about me. Another one of the most potent lies often told by women is when they begin to blame you, suggesting that you don't care about her. In fact, this is one of the most powerful manipulation tactics, as it aims to break down a person to a level where they cannot really respond or where they begin to feel guilty. Unless someone's done something that specifically shows they don't care about you, like perhaps drinking every evening or not coming through on promises, you should never utter these words. In fact, it's one of the most powerful and common manipulation tactics that many often tell you. Her aim when doing so is to try to encourage you to abide more by her will, and this will make you much weaker. In fact, when a woman utters these words, it's enough motivation for a sane man who values his self-respect to simply walk away and find someone else. You're bound to find that women love playing this card as a way of getting what they want, whilst they try to limit and even control your core being. As a man, you don't want to be in a relationship where you're competing with someone to see who cares the most about the other. This should be a very neutral thing that both want. Number 7. She accuses you of lying. This one can manifest itself in a variety of different ways, but you're bound to notice that women tend to accuse you of lying quite easily when they themselves might be lying. In fact, psychologists refer to this as the mirroring technique, whereby humans mirror their own feelings and project them as flaws onto others. If you happen to notice that she accuses you of lying, even when you're in the right, she might be the one hiding something. Now, this should be accompanied by a couple of other signs, and we've created a video on how and why women lie to men. You should also check this out if you want more information on female behavior. However, when you're accused of lying and you have not given her any real reason to make this conclusion, you might be dealing with someone who could be lying themselves. It's much easier to launch a preemptive strike and accuse someone else of something you've been doing as a way of protecting your own reputation and dignity. There's 2 ways of approaching this. The first method is whereby you do some investigating and find out what the true reason is. However, this could come at the cost of your own dignity. Ideally, you need to trust that people never get away with anything. This lie will manifest and reveal itself in due time. You should just be patient. Number 8. I love you. The last lie is perhaps the hardest to deal with and the hardest to spot. You see, women use these words knowing that men have become increasingly weak. And when they do use this, they can easily convince a man to do anything. In fact, before technology took over and women gained numerous different options, this was completely different. And men would be the ones telling women they love them for personal gains. However, men are now weak, and instead of seeking purpose, they're fixated on finding love. Women will exploit this. The big problem is that knowing whether or not she's lying can be very tricky. But you should be able to discern this with relative ease if you allow the situation to play out. In fact, women could tell you they love you for various nefarious reasons. Ideally, you want to wait it out and allow the situation to play out. She'll mess up, and then you should be gone. Lies are all around us, and there's virtually nothing to be done about them. The only thing you can do is to protect yourself from any potential harm, as this could significantly sway the situation. We encourage you to check out our videos on Stoicism. These will not only help you discern lies, but learn how to deal with them without seeming weak.